Yeah.
But we have to get them in advance because they're so busy, and we want to make sure that everybody knows about the show that is happening next Thursday.
Yeah, the boys are on tour, and we're pumped to have them in St. Catharines. Econoline Crush coming November 2nd to the Warehouse Concert Hall, and we're going to talk to Trevor Hurst all about it.
Yes, we are. So let's get to it. Make sure you check out 460q.com and listen live. And of course, we're recording this so you can hear this over and over again, because I'm going to listen over and over again.
Yes, just before you go to Trevor, I just want to do this good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Econoline Crush with Partner. That's happening Thursday, November 2nd at the Warehouse Concert Hall in St. Catharines. The doors are open at 7. The show is at 8, and it's an all-ages licensed event. Get your tickets at motolive.com or warehouseniagara.com. There you go.
Oh, good. Make sure you keep repeating that, because we want to make sure that everybody knows about this.
We are going to pump up the Warehouse, baby, here in St. Catharines. We are going to do it and do it right.
And right now, please welcome... I'm really excited. Sorry, I'm breathing really hard because I'm super excited.
And don't forget, all the radio stations, we got to say it's Rocktober.
Rocktober with Econoline Crush.
No better way to celebrate Rocktober than having the great Trevor Hurst on.
Please welcome the one and only, the co-founder and lead singer, Econoline Crush, Trevor Hurst.
Hello, guys. Hi, Kendra. Hi, Jay. How are things?
I'm great, man, and I'm excited to have you on the show today. I'm excited for the show coming up next Thursday at the Warehouse, because it's 30 years of Econoline Crush to me, and it just brings back so many memories of the years that I've listened to you here in Niagara, mostly on Edge Radio. Mostly, and I know the history of Martin Streak and everything in Edge Radio and the Edge Fest and much music and Econoline Crush. It just brings back those fuzzy feelings to me, the music that I loved back in the day, and to see you at the Warehouse next Thursday is going to be unbelievable.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was, wow, those were crazy times.
Yeah.
Hanging out with Martin and tearing up Toronto. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Southern Ontario.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you spent a lot of time in Toronto, man.
Yeah, we did. And loved it. I mean, and we still do. It's been a while since we played, but it is it is kind of the epicenter of Canada. Yeah. A big population there. And, oh, my goodness, yeah, the scene back in the day, that's where the label was, much music, the whole deal, the Edge. Edge Fest. I can remember the one in Barrie was insane. It was so cool. Yeah.
So, of course, we have to talk about... I just want to start with the fact that, it has been a long time, and you have stuck through and never given up.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I don't know, at some point you kind of... you just realize that this is what you do and who you are and part of your makeup, and I don't know what else to do, and I don't know how else to process things. I find that for me personally, anything that happens in my life, I process it through music. I process it whether it's listening to music to help, or writing music to help, and creating music to help, or playing shows to kind of get the yah-yahs out, It's always music.
Of course. But you have... Econoline Crush, I just want to take a quick veer, because music is a very creative outlet for you, but you not only create, music for people to deal with a lot of things, but you also physically help people through a lot of things.
Yeah, I try to. I went back to school a number of years ago because, the music industry had changed, and there was a lot of different events in my life that occurred. I was getting divorced. I didn't want to be away from my children. I had 2 boys at the time, and I didn't want to get away from them for extended periods of time, playing shows, basically being a T-shirt vendor. And I wanted to, have something that I could use to fund music and maybe not spend so much time on the road. So I went back to school and became a psychiatric nurse. And I'd always kind of had an interest in psychiatry, and let's face it, rock and roll, mental illness, all goes hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so I ended up taking this course. I became a registered psychiatric nurse, and I work now and have worked for a while at Chinookwapka Dakota Nation in southwestern Manitoba, and I work there as the home and community care nurse and the mental wellness worker, and I work with addictions and elders, and I really enjoy it, and I really enjoy helping people.
How hard is it to juggle, creating and the creative process along with actually going to work and doing, almost the 9-to-5 thing and helping other people?
Well, I've been very blessed in that when I first worked there, coming out of school, I took a couple years pause. But when I first worked there, the person that is now the chief of the community was a co-worker at one of the junior high schools where we counseled kids together. So she understands the importance of music and the importance of kind of, how, or the way that I work, I guess, and what it means to me. So when I came back just recently to go back to work there, she basically agreed, Lola Thunderchild, that, I could take time and go play shows and then come back to work. And we have this sort of way of getting nurses to fill in and people to fill in for the jobs that I do. And so it was a great situation. It's definitely interesting, too, because in the world of music, we have to improvise lots. Like, you'll show up at a gig and somebody will have forgot something, or there's some interview, or there's something happens, and it just messes with the schedule. And so you have to adapt. And I think the same thing is true of psychiatric nursing and working in the First Nation. Is there's a lot of times the original plan is just not going to be the plan that we go with, and so you have to adapt. And I think being in rock and roll kind of made me more flexible that way and more amiable to making these changes that are required in order to get the job done.
And there are a lot of people who, deal with mental illness and such, and a lot of trauma, who are unable to vocalize or find the words to explain how they're feeling. How does it feel to be able to have people, resort to suggest your music to explain how they're feeling?
It is interesting. Like, when you create music, one of the things you have to kind of come to terms with is that once the music is released, even though you created it and it's your song, it's no longer yours.
Yeah.
Once it becomes part of the audience and the listener, that then becomes their music, their song, their thing. And it just is amazing how you have to be able to let go of that, and allow them to interpret the music the way they interpret it. And for some artists, it's very difficult. But I've learned over the years, and I've sat there, and you're signing stuff or at the T-shirt place or whatever, the vending, right at the back of the hall afterwards, and you're signing stuff and talking with fans, they'll often tell me, this song meant this to me, this song, and they ask me, well, what does it mean to you? And sometimes they're bang on about the emotion, and sometimes they're different. It's different. It's a different story, but both are equally valid in my mind, because music is a very deeply personal thing, and how you interpret a song is how you interpret a song. And
how would you describe your reaction to how it makes them feel and how they interpret your music? I think probably humbled. Like, I'm so grateful that it does serve that purpose, and that it does do something. And I feel humbled the fact that that this was I was allowed to kind of be part of that process, because it's really quite. Like, I find music just to be amazing in and of itself. Like, it's just so cool that there's this art form that really, for me, I'm not that proficient, I don't think, at understanding theory. And I like the way that
it still surprises me the way some chords go together, and there's this happy mistake or whatever that happens during recording, and you go, whoa, that is cool. And just like, I'm always kind of taken aback by the surprises that happen, and the way that things go together, and sometimes the way that the words land on a beat or on a specific part of the phrase. It's amazing, and it's so cool. So for me, I think that music is magic, and it just does something that we really can't explain all the time, and that's what keeps me coming back to it. It's so cool that way.
That's something I wanted to touch on, because me personally, I deal with a lot of mental health struggles, but I'm unable, and I have a really hard time to, as I said, vocalize it and explain to people. And the fact that I have no idea how to be able to do this, and I am incredibly envious of musicians like you who are able to put those emotions into words to help describe how we are feeling.
Yeah, it is difficult. Like, I'm a person that lives with attention deficit disorder, and that is barely understood in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like it's a different. It's a lot different than what people perceive in this hyperactive kid that can't sit still in class. But it's not only that. There's so many different, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and how we react to like a bad stimuli, some teacher yelling at you, or people's disappointment, how deeply it cuts. And it's hard to explain to people, this is heavy for us. This isn't just, your average run-of-the-mill, like, hey, don't do that. And you go, yeah, okay, fine. Yeah. When somebody says that, we feel immense, disappointment, and we feel like a lot of different emotions that are just not necessarily neurotypical.
Yes. I'm glad you used the word neurotypical, because, I use it a lot of times say normal.
Yeah, what's normal?
What's normal? But what is normal anymore? So
Exactly.
neurotypical is a lot better of a word to use, because I experience it every day when situations happen that, I am seeing it from a completely different angle than anybody else. I absolutely find it really, heartwarming that not only do you suffer from a mental health affliction, but you also help others to deal with it. And I don't know if I could be able to do that, because I'm just not strong enough.
I think, it's interesting, too, because I probably would have said the same when I first got involved in the education to become a psych nurse. And there was times, obviously, during the process that I was like, I don't know if this is something that I can do. But it's actually a lot easier, I think, when you are somebody that does have a neurodivergent mind, and you can relate, and you can listen, and you know how important it is to be heard, so you listen longer, you listen harder, and you have more empathy and more patience. I think all those things come to bear when you're doing it, and they create a better opportunity for the client, or the person that you're working with, to be heard, because you're willing to sit and wait for those words to get out, for those emotions to be shared. And sometimes you just need to prime them with a certain phrase or certain question, and it comes out, like it just kind of flows. And it doesn't take a lot sometimes to change somebody's perspective or somebody's world by just listening.
And I want to go further with that, because how hard is it working with others? Because it's hard to create an album on your own, because you guys, Econoline Crush has this new album out. How hard is it to work with others who may be neurotypical or even neurodivergent in creating these songs and recording and producing and all that hubbub?
Well, there's a balancing act there for sure, and I mean it's always that balancing act within the band playing live, within the band recording with the producer, recording with the recording engineer and producer and their dynamic. This record, though, was interesting because it was during COVID, and it couldn't be the usual crowd of people coming in and coming out. The band wasn't there for most of it because you just couldn't do it. There was no flights, or if there was flights, there was the 14-day isolation period afterwards. And so I ended up doing a lot of it just one-on-one with Ian Alexander Smith and in Kitchener. And we worked in his home studio, and we had to develop that relationship where there was that trust and that, where I could just let it all hang out and not feel judged. And so he created, a non-judgmental environment, and he created a situation where it was positive, and I was able to kind of explore some of the topics and the things that I wanted to explore on this record, and I think that's really important. But yeah, it is, again, like I think the world of music and the world of mental health medicine or mental health therapy is very similar. Like it really is. There's a lot of development of trust, creating a situation where you can actually thrive and be vulnerable and allow others to be vulnerable and be non-judgmental and kind of move through it to create really good art. And at the same time, I love it. Like Bowie used to always say, if you're not really uncomfortable, if you're not feeling challenged when you're making a record, then you're really not making the best art that you can make. You should push yourself. You should try and do something different. You should try and create something that's outside of what you always do. Not all artists like to do that, but I do. I like to try and make the records grow. I like to explore different styles, and hopefully, people like to follow us down the path.
I wanted to touch on one thing because, myself being neurodivergent, I have a hard time with change. And you have been the sole member of Econoline Crush who has stayed throughout all these years. How is that? How is the process of change through having different members throughout the years?
It's sometimes can be really hard and difficult. Sometimes it can be amazing. I think everybody that comes into the fold brings something to the band, and it changes the chemistry and it changes the vibe. And that change, then impacts the live show and impacts the music. And most of the time, over the years, it's been very positive, and it's only been a few times where it wasn't the greatest, but it was just because it wasn't a good fit. Different styles, different desires, different outlooks on life. For the most part, though, I think we've been very fortunate. And the guys that I play with now, we've been together making music for 5-6 years now at least. And the relationship is strong, and we know each other, and we feel secure, we can trust each other playing together.
And I'm really excited for, When the Devil Drives. I love the new album. It's different, but it's the same. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, I know it's different for a lot of people. It's not. It's more.
But it's the same.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it.
It does have. Yeah. I mean, I think I like to make there's a sound to Econoline Crush, and I think we know kind of what that is. I mean, it's us being. And myself being as honest as possible and as open as possible, and then just trying to create that situation and that sound, and exploring it's basically exploring what's going on in the world for the band at that moment, and that's the easiest way to kind of say how we make our records.
I'm hogging this interview, so I'm gonna throw it to Jay because
I'm kind of pumped up and excited, and I'm looking forward to the new stuff, absolutely, and we're gonna get a dose of that November 2nd at the Warehouse. But I kind of want to rewind back to, it's been 30 years. It's been 30 years of Econoline Crush, and I know that you kind of broke in at the height of the grunge, the Seattle, where it was the peak of grunge, and it's just kind of an era that I lived as a fan, and you lived as actually doing it and breaking into the business, and I'm just kind of wondering your experience on that, because as a fan, we've seen it from the outside, and it's kind of, now that I'm 48 years old, the younger generation hasn't lived the grunge era.
You know, and the thing that I think that was it's funny that was the name, grunge.
Yeah.
And really, it was grunge because if you remember at that time, the music that was considered quote-unquote rock and roll was very much teased hair, spandex, fire, like fire and pyrotechnics.
Sure,
and,
your hair band kind of thing.
Yeah. So there wasn't a lot of this earnest kind of vibe. And the one thing that I found, like, I was fortunate enough to be in Seattle during that whole time, and going to different clubs, Rock Candy and Sidetrack and the Crocodile, and watching Tad and watching Grunt Truck, and going to rehearsal spaces. And in one room you would have Soundgarden, in the other room you'd have Alice in Chains, and you could hear them, or see Kurt driving his beat up Volvo down Broadway.
Yeah.
But the uniting thing, the thing that I thought was, so cool, was that the musicians didn't give one iota, like they did not care what anybody thought. They made the music they made. And that aesthetic made it so good because it was just like honest. It had some kind of ache that was new and real.
Sure.
The clothes were bought at a thrift store because that's all we could afford. It was like, it was real stuff, and it got this label grunge, and they tried, because the record companies always like to market it as something, but really, it should have been just real. Like, this was real music out of a city that had a blue-collar, working-class vibe that consisted of these people that worked at Boeing or in the lumber industry or at the docks,
Yeah, absolutely. It inspired a whole generation. It inspired me even. It was just something new. It was something that we just kind of put a label on as grunge, just to have our own little thing, and it's just that these are our bands, and we follow grunge. That's exactly what it was. But breaking in, like, I saw Econoline Crush at Edgefest on one of the stages there, and it was just, I just remember those good time feels that, like, it connects with me as a young man, and to see you 30 years later still rocking, and it's just amazing to me, man.
Thank you. I mean, to me too, it's shocking to hear the amount of years that we've been doing it, because it doesn't feel like it has been that long, and that's the whole lifetime. But it really, it has gone by, quite quickly. I mean, we've had moments where it probably felt excruciatingly slow, but man, it has been quite the ride. And to me, like, we had some times where we couldn't produce music, where we weren't that prolific, and it bothered me tremendously. So this album is so important because it was an opportunity that we didn't want to pass up to work with, Tam Milne and Dan Arison as our manager, and put together this project, get the funding to make a record, get in there with Ian, and make this thing happen. And really, it was so important to us, like, because if we can pull this off, then we can do another one and another one. And it just, I mean, wow. We were so excited as we were finishing. And, and I know the topic is eventually going to come up, but, like, Ziggy and I were very pumped.
I was going to ask you about
Ziggy. And then he had his untimely passing, and it was so rough because it felt like, man, we're just getting going here, buddy. Yeah. And he's gone in a blink of an eye. And that almost, it didn't derail the train, but it definitely, we felt repercussions, and we felt the reverberations for quite a while.
The whole audience did, the fans did, and everybody that loves Econoline Crush loves Ziggy, it's very, very sad that we don't have Ziggy anymore. Was he a part of, I'm curious, because I know you guys toured with Kiss at one point. And how was that for you? Because for sure, you grew up listening to Kiss. Was that like?
I mean, that whole trip was, because at the time too, Kiss was, again, like, sort of one of the bands that for a minute or two was kind of hit hard by the grunge scene, kind of backlash against that style of music that they made. But it was only for half a second, because you had Andrew Wood, the late Andrew Wood, and different people from the grunge scene that were huge, and Lane Staley, huge Kiss fans, and so they kind of brought them back into the rock and roll fold. For Ziggy, the big thing was we went on tour, did a cross-Canada tour with Alice Cooper, and that was Ziggy's guy, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was wondering about. Yeah, that was
And
Ziggy's
so
guy.
he just like he was on cloud nine, man,
sure.
and it was so fun to do that tour. And it was soft seaters all the way across the country, and it was sold out everywhere we went. And just to watch Alice every night, 29 nights, I think it was crazy cool.
Yeah, that's cool that, you guys are coming up as a band and playing with the legends that you listen to, and Ziggy getting to play with Alice Cooper it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for Ziggy too, like, he had various, like, his band Slow, when he was involved in this band Slow out of Vancouver, they were kind of part of that beginning of the grunge scene. Have Not Gone Away is a rock anthem that they had that really kind of turned the heads of a lot of people and got people excited about rock and roll again.
Yeah.
And then Ziggy was, handpicked by Bob Rock to be in Rockhead, and he opened the show in Wembley, walked out playing his guitar part before the be as Rockhead opened for Bon Jovi. So Ziggy had some very big rock moments, and when he came into our band, he brought us up a level for sure, and it felt great to share the stage with him and have him do, as he calls it, his free-form freak out. It was just like perfect.
That's amazing.
And I loved it every night.
Yeah, I got a question for you, a little bit off the record. I don't know if I should be saying it on the air, but every now and again we get a visit from the great TDM, Terry David Mulligan, who claims that you dedicated a song to him, and also says that Martin Street broke into the business. Is any of this true? Martin
Street broke us into the business for sure. That song was not after Terry David Mulligan,
I knew it.
You're so vain.
Yeah,
That's what the song is about. No, but Terry, I love Terry, but the song. It was interesting because what we had done was we were in the studio and we had just got a Kurzweil 3000 or whatever, and we did some guitar samples. And I was sitting there with Tom Ferris, one of the guys that we kind of started working with, started the whole thing, and he was in a band called Mauve, which started Network Records to go all that way back.
Okay.
But Tom was sitting there, and I pressed this thing, and it went, ticka-ticka-dat, ticka-ticka-dat. So I went, ticka-ticka-dat, and then the next key was dana, ticka-ticka-dat, ticka-ticka-dana, ticka. And so I was just playing it, so they go, for a working title, we called it Trevor's Death Metal. And then it's shortened to TDM.
Oh, that's where he's getting it from. I was wondering. Yeah, he told us at an event down here about that TDM, and now I get it. It's not about him at all.
No, it's funny too, because when the first interview he ever did with us was at this thing where Lane didn't show up to open for Metallica.
Yeah.
So it was Metallica at UBC Thunderbird Stadium, Suicidal Tendencies.
Wow.
Somebody else, and we played the. Headlined the B stage, and but afterwards, Terry David Mulligan gave me an interview, and I made the East Van sign with my fingers, and they cut this whole chunk of the interview out because they said I was throwing gang signs, and all I was doing was saying East Van.
Oh, I love it, man! The good old days of Much Music. That's unbelievable. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! I want to get into the new album.
Yeah.
Because you're on tour.
Yeah.
For the new album, When the Devil Drives.
Yeah.
The first released song was No Quitter.
Yes.
I just want to take a moment because it's an ode to Ziggy.
Well, yeah, and it was an interesting thing because working with Ian Alexander Smith was another different, like when we're talking about neurodivergent individuals. Ian, love you. But like he would, like, his hours were crazy. We would work all night, and it was like madness at his house at times. And so we were finishing up one night, and I said, "Do you have, like, I'd like something, like, do you have anything up tempo we can work on?" And he goes, "I have this one song that I've been holding on to for years, but," he goes, "I'd like, if you're going to work on it, I just need you to keep the first two lines." And I'm like, "Okay, what are the lines?" And it's, "Goddamn boy, you better get a move on. You can't stay here. You can barely get your shoes on."
Oh, wow.
I like that.
And I'm like, "Well, wow. I don't know if that's not something I would normally write." But then instantly I got this image of, I grew up on the prairies. And people would be like, okay, it's time to go, end of the party, like, get the hell out, like, let's move it. You know, like Semisonic, you can't stay here. I don't care where you go. You know that song, Closing Time. And so I was sitting there thinking about it, and I go, well, you know, if you're putting your shoes on and they're starting to rush you out the door, then if you know the song, those two lines happen, and then I get into a quicker paced lyric. You're wasted, it's okay. It's just that kind of day. Spending all my time thinking how I'm going to pay the bank, the bills, the rent, the pills, alimony, sad story, walls are closing in on me. And when I think the walls are closing in on me, I could picture the door of the house party getting thrown open. You fall down those 4 cement stairs into the snowbank.
That's
and
awesome.
You get up and you fire off 2 birds, you know, like, doesn't matter, I didn't want to be here anymore anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
No,
and then it just opens up into that chorus, I ain't no quitter. And Zig and I used to say that all the time was, what else are we going to do? We're no quitters, you know?
And of course, I saw in an interview you mentioned the Shakespeare quote, needs must when the devil drives.
Yes, Zig would always be walking around and throw his hand into the air like a Shakespearean, thespian and say, needs must when the devil drives. And it's sort of like, it's supposed to be the first attributed quote to Shakespeare. And so it just seemed right to kind of go with the devil you know, which was, better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. So we just took a hack of that, and we took a hack of this, which when the devil drives. They seemed appropriate.
And a lot of people have been talking about the fact that the devil drives, relating it to your first.
Yeah, when the devil you know, which was our sophomore thing. Yeah. So we had done, well, it was kind of our third record, because we'd done a Purge EP, then Affliction, and then The Devil You Know. Mm-hmm. And The Devil You Know was cool, too, because, I've always tried to be as progressive as possible, and we picked a female producer, which was not really done in those times.
No.
But Sylvia Massey had done some really cool records. And we met up in Los Angeles, and as soon as she started talking, hi, Trevor, I was like, oh my gosh, this lady is like a cartoon character. I cannot wait to get in the studio and make some music.
Hilarious.
How did it turn out?
Well, it was our platinum record, it's got all the hits, Sparkle and Shine, Home, All That You Are. So it was a great time.
Yeah, beautiful.
And it was recorded in Sound City. So Sound City is that documentary, that I think Dave Grohl did. Yeah, and if you've seen the movie Boogie Nights,
yes,
that's the studio that where he's like, I need you to give me the masters for my record. I can't give you the masters until you pay for them. I can't pay for them until you give them to me. And they're standing there in front of green shag carpet. Well, that's the hallway outside of Studio.
Oh, that's amazing. It actually exists.
Yeah.
It's not just a movie scene. It actually exists, the green shag carpet.
Beautiful. It's there, man, for real. And like in the tape room, they still had tape room when we were there, where they kept all the digital 2-inch tape, or the analog, all the rolls of 2-inch. There was Brian Wilson and Charlie Manson recordings, and when they wouldn't give him the tape, he fired 2 rounds with a .38, and the bullet holes were still there in the tape blockers.
Oh, wow. That's some good history right there.
That's
sweet. And Jesse's Girl was recorded there.
Yes.
By Rick Springfield.
Yes, there's probably just a few things. There's probably a million things that have been recorded there, but those are some good highlights. I didn't know about those.
Nevermind, obviously, for Butch Vig worked there and recorded Nevermind. And we were in the room where he laid on the couch with the D out-of-tune guitar and recorded Polly Wants a Cracker.
I just want to remind everyone,
That's
you
awesome.
you and Econoline Crush are here next Thursday, November 2nd, at the Warehouse. It's going to be a great show, so you need to get your tickets, and I am excited to keep talking to you. I just wanted to mention it because we need to remind people that you're going to be in town in Niagara, and they need to be there.
Oh, yes, it's going to be so much fun. And we haven't been in St. Catharines a while, and I'm so looking forward to it. And in the region, like, we're playing a bunch of shows around, and we've missed it so much, and we can't wait. I can't wait.
Plus, the Warehouse is such a good venue to see a band like yours. It's an industrial sort of stand-up, no chairs. Get your drinks, get everything,
and very intimate.
Yeah,
and that is perfect for you guys.
But this is all ages. Even though I'm saying drinking, it is all ages. Anybody can go to. Yeah, it is cool.
And everybody can get there, and lots of parking, all that kind of stuff. I'm really excited. Let's keep talking about the new album, because there's also there's many songs on the album, but the other release is Locked in Your Stone. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Well, when we were finishing up the record, it was around Christmas time, and we had hired a couple of different people to take a crack at mixing it, and it was like, I was really kind of not, like, there's a lot of stuff on this record that's kind of experimental, a lot of yelling and screaming and things being broken and playing musical instruments in sort of a way that's not maybe orthodox, let's just say. And so I wanted all that stuff to work, but it's difficult to mix that and make it sound good, and if you don't understand it. And so I phoned a friend of mine, Phil Anderson, who runs a studio in Edmonton. I was like, man, I can't. These mixes are coming back, and I'm not digging it. And he said, why don't you ask Jack? And I went, like, Jack Joseph Puig? And he's like, yeah. I go, dude, I can't afford Jack Joseph Puig. And he goes, you never know, just send him the stuff, see what he says. So Jack Joseph Puig has mixed a lot of great records. Stones, U2, Lady Gaga, John Mayer, Criminal, Fiona Apple, just on and on and on. And he was vice president of Interscope Records. He works with Jimmy Iovine, so he's a kind of a heavy hitter. And I just didn't think we could get him. We sent him the stuff, and he loved it, and he said he'd mix it. And so when he finished, I drove down, insisted I drive down, which was another weird thing, but I felt like something was up because we hadn't heard from Ziggy in a while. And so I drove down to Glendale to hear the mixes in his studio, in his house in Glendale, California. And 15 minutes before we were supposed to meet in the lobby to head over to Jack's house to hear the mixes, I got a phone call from an insurance company saying, hey, do you own this vehicle, this motorhome? Yes, I'm the insured person that's insured it, yes. And, we need you to, where's it supposed to be? I tell them, well, that's not where it is. It's in downtown Vancouver, east side. Can you report it stolen? I said, I don't really want to, because, at that time I figured it was, Zig was in it and tearing around, and it was his vehicle. I just insured it for him for, just so it was cheaper. And, I said, hey, like, I don't want to report it stolen. I don't want anybody to get in trouble. She's like, just please take down these numbers, police numbers, badge numbers, whatever, case numbers, something. I don't know. I remember I wrote it down, and I'm like, hey, I gotta go. I gotta meet people in a few minutes down the lobby of this hotel I'm at. So, what can I do to, whatever. And she says, are you sitting down? I said, no. So when they say, like, when I sat down, the lady said, I'm sorry, Trevor, but we found a body in the vehicle. And I just was crushed. And I knew immediately it was Ziggy.
Yeah.
and so when we went over to listen to the record, it was crazy because, I was crying the whole time, and Jack was so cool with it, and he was very patient, and the record sounded killer, but it was such an odd experience to be sitting there and listening to songs that I've written and created with Ziggy, and songs that he played on, and he's gone, and I just found out, and I knew after the session I'd have to go phone his mother and father, and
thank you for sharing that. That's hard. Oh my God.
So, Locked in Your Stone, the record was done, and I phoned Ian, and I said, we lost Zig, and can we finish up that one song we were working on? We just kind of, like, didn't really kind of finish. We had some music, and it's kind of this melancholy thing, and that's what it turned into, was Locked in Your Stone. And it's sort of a way too for me to process my anger and my disappointment and my sadness and just everything all at once,
All your
kind of
emotions,
feeling in music. And so Locked in Your Stone is that. Because I couldn't reach him, I felt like, near the end of his life. I couldn't get to him, and I couldn't help him. And, it's one of those things. It's just, it is what it is. And I know that he's somewhere better now. And I feel his presence whenever we play, and I feel his presence whenever we play the music and listen to the songs. And I know that's how we're connected, and I know that's how we'll stay connected, for the rest of my time here in this plane of existence.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. I don't know. Go ahead, okay.
Hold on, I need a second.
I know it's a lot, but see, that's the thing. Like, if you have the pleasure or the if you've been privileged enough to be able to be in this business and stay alive this long, and no matter what you do in this life, you are going to have these very profound moments, and you're going to lose your parents, you're going to lose your friends, and you're going to go through some things.
Yeah.
And it's how you roll with that, and it's how you move through those challenges and continue on that sets the course for your life and your character. And I think for us as a band, and for me as a person, and a songwriter and a friend, and musical brother, I owe it to Ziggy to do my best to push this thing forward.
Yeah.
I owe it to the people that love the band to press on. And for myself, it's how I guess I process the whole thing is by playing these songs and working through it every night on stage.
Yep, and we love that you're still doing it, and I can't wait till you get here. Can you tell me about Partner? They're opening up for you?
Yeah, it's really cool. All-girl band and indie band. We got word that there was a couple bands that were interested, and Partner to us seemed like the coolest sort of vibe that we could put in front of us, and we're always excited we used to do that in the States as well. Like, instead of taking a band on tour with us for every show, we would ask to get, like, who's the hottest local, who's somebody that you find, like, compelling, that you just don't understand, but there's something there. I want to see it. And we had some great musical experiences that way, seeing these bands and just like, wow, why aren't you signed? You're amazing, So it was cool that way. So I think Partners, again, another one of these bands where you're like, hey, this is a really neat vibe. I think people should see this.
Yes. I think it's going to mesh well with your band, and that's going to be great. I don't know. I want to get to some Econoline Crush music. I don't want to take up so much time because I want to get some hits in here. You got something?
I still had a question because you were talking about, you had Locked in Stone. It was the Locked in Your Stone, was kind of written with Ziggy. How much of the album is written, kind of together, and or how was it to continue and finish the album without him?
Well, see, it was done basically before he passed. So, and so we had written Invincible and Smashing Optimism together. We'd gone in and done a session with Sylvia in Ashland, Oregon, where he played some on Going Under. And the song actually, Locked in Your Stone, was written after Ziggy had passed with Ian. And he didn't have anything to do with the music or anything on that, but it's written about him. And it was, like I said, like listening to his guitar parts and the things that he recorded at Jack's after 30 minutes earlier, finding out that he was gone, was excruciating and beautiful at the same time. Like, it was kind of odd. And then like I said earlier, they'd wanted me to fly down, and for whatever reason, I was like, no, I need some time. I'm going to drive. And so when I drove back from Glendale to Manitoba, I took my time. I stopped in the desert. I would sit and cry and have a meltdown and get back in and go for a bit more. And I just processed as much as I could, and I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything else like other than what happened to me. So I don't know how the record would have gone differently had he been there to listen, and had he been here now to play. I'm sure it would be a lot of fun, but it's this way now, and it's so bizarre. Yet it's our new normal, and we have to kind of just deal with it and grow like as a band like that.
Does it change a lot of not necessarily the chemistry, but the way in which you work together? Yes,
absolutely. Like Ziggy was larger than life, and at times like just completely an artist. Like he was probably the most pure artist that I've ever met. So, he was so fun and so crazy and so out of his mind at times. He'd be like off on creative tangents and things. And now it's, that chunk, that huge personality is not there. And so it's different. It's subdued a little bit. It's, but it's weird because like you can feel, and I know the other guys feel the same way, that we sense that he's around, and we sense that he's with us, and like there's times I know that all of us sit there in rehearsal and stop and just think, wow, I miss Zig. It's weird. It's just he's just omnipresent, even though he's not there. So I think it definitely impacts us, and it's definitely a big loss, and it's a huge hole in the chemistry. But at the same time, people have stepped up, and we continue on, and we tell stories and laugh about this story and that story, and I know he's happy with what we're doing, and I know that he would definitely approve of where we're at right now and be so excited. He loved nothing better than playing shows. That was one of his favorite things in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ziggy will always be a part of Econoline Crush. Yeah. There's no doubt about that.
Econoline Crush, music.com for all of the links to download the music, buy tickets, buy merch, buy their records. Make sure you go online, get their new album, and really get engaged. And of course, November 2nd, next Thursday, at the Warehouse. I'm really excited.
Yeah, we're super pumped for it. We are ready, and we're going to see you next Thursday, my man, at the Warehouse. And thanks for coming on 4680Q, hitting the 12.
Thank you so much, Trevor.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for helping us share the new music. And I hope everybody goes and listens to it and gives it a chance. I think it's a great record. We're very, very happy.
Yeah, it's exciting. I've been listening to it all day long.
I wanna play an old song and then a new song.
Yeah.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah, I want to play Econoline Crush music. We promised it to the fans, and we're going to give you a bunch of it, plus the new stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we're going to do that. But I also want to say Jay and I were going to say our own personal goodbye to Trevor. But let's get to music. We're going to start with, the one that everybody knows. You don't know what it's like. Econoline Crush.